Hello, all you cosmic travelers and wanderers. This is Darlene Grift and K. Melissa Waterman, inviting you to join us today in our episode of Expansion from Within, Exploring Multidimensionality.
Let me introduce you to my friend and dear colleague, Darlene Grift. She is a lifetime experiencer, a medical intuitive, and a multidimensional mediator for over 35 years. She's also an author, an artist, a teacher, and a mentor for spiritually invested people.
And K. Melissa Waterman is my friend and colleague, and she's an intuitive mentor, a spiritual teacher. She also works with energy on many levels. In the past, Melissa has worked with Dr. Joe Dispenza on his research team.
Join us on our journey of meeting multidimensional beings, exploring what it means to be human, and expanding our spiritual evolution. I think this is number 7. We're moving right along.
We
Episode
are.
7. The last couple times we talked about timelines and intention setting and intention in general and the importance of intention. And I'm wondering if today we can talk about karma.
Sure, it's a big subject.
Yeah, I think it is a big subject. So how about we start with what karma is?
Okay. Karma is that place that when we live a life out and we've done something that might be negative to someone, or something is done to us that's negative, harmful, hurtful, in any way, shape, or form, it's the balancing act. So it comes back in some way, or it has the potential to come back in another lifetime. It doesn't have to be consecutive. It doesn't have to be that next lifetime. You're going to have to relive that in some way. You know, it can move through many lifetimes until we finally come to that place of whatever that lesson was that we get it. So it's a cycle. It's a loop, so to speak, about how it keeps coming back until we move through that particular lesson, or we get it in some way, or we resolve something with one particular person. That person may show up, in other lifetimes in a different configuration, right? But we might recognize them and realize that there's something that we need to do to clear it.
Yeah. So I'm thinking this is from the Buddhist teachings.
Yes.
I'm thinking of the Dalai Lama not wanting to kill mosquitoes, but not doing it. And he did that in an effort to protect his karma, right?
Yes.
To not kill animals. And so that makes me wonder, tell me how you think karma works. Is it true that there's a record of all the spiders I've killed and I'm going to have to pay in my next life or something?
Oh, yes. Yes, you're going to have to pay. You're going to have 8 legs the next time,
That would be okay. I would rather be a spider than have them crawl on me.
Yes, I think that it's a balancing act. I think it was created. One of the questions, is why was karma created? It was created early on so that if there was something, because we're all into choice, right? So if our choices led to harming somebody in one way or another, even ourselves in one way or another, that it would come back as a reflection so that we could heal it. We could move through it. We could process it, whatever those words are, so that we don't have to hold on to it. So it was originally created for that.
I see. As a balance, as a
balance.
As a way to keep our soul kind of on track.
Yes. Keep us clear, clean, as best we could.
Do you think anything's changed from that original to now? Do we still need that same kind of balancing?
I think it's offered to us. What's changed because of it is the population. And the more population, there's certain collective karma that we've achieved, and hold on to. And that doesn't necessarily get resolved quickly. If you have 1,000 people, 10 people that are involved in a harmful act, then that gets moved to each one of their karma, and it becomes a collective residue of, what needs to be handled. And in working with multidimensionality, what I find in why the karma needs to move, or why they are on the spiritual level, they are trying to delete karma, is because at this point, there's so much accumulation that we have gathered through many timelines of incomplete karma, where we haven't handled it, that it keeps recycling and we keep repeating and it keeps recycling. And then we have a million things on our list that influence lifetimes. So we are clogged up, so to
Right.
speak.
Right.
So moving through that in a way is becoming more detrimental to us and not really happening. So that the karma that we've been in because of the population, because of how many times, how many lifetimes we've been here, it just becomes more difficult to move through it and handle, to balance.
Sure. So I just heard you use karma and timelines almost interchangeably. Can you tell me what the difference between a timeline and karma is?
So timelines, let's put it this way. Karma has timelines, but timelines don't all have karma.
Oh, say
Okay.
more.
Yeah. So, it's like you live through a lifetime and maybe it was a joyous lifetime. Maybe there wasn't anything happening there. So that's a timeline.
Mhm.
That's something that you experience. That's a multidimensional part of yourself, right? It's a lifetime. Um,
Right,
but it doesn't have any karma attached to it that gets put in the loop.
right. Ah, I see. I see. So the karma is sort of the replay of what is unfinished, and the
Yes.
timeline is the timeline in which things are either getting replayed or not, right? Like the
Right.
timeline is right. And so just go over it again. The multidimensional beings want to clear the timelines. I understood that from our last couple of sessions. So they're wanting to clear the karma.
They want to clear the timelines that
Mhm.
are, even if those timelines, because you got what you bring in, not only from timelines that could be karma, you can bring in something positive from the timelines, right?
Sure,
So you
sure.
had a talent in some other lifetime, or you were a shaman, or in some way you had something that connecting to that timeline, you can bring that forward into this particular timeline, right? So it's an integration process,
Right,
right?
right.
But
Uh-huh.
if that timeline contained karma, then you would want to release the karma.
Right,
And then either maybe it needs to be integrated, it depends on what the issue is, right?
right,
Or you release it and let it go, and it becomes just part of the field of possibility, but nothing that you have to relive again.
right. And so the multidimensional beings are helping us release or delete this karma.
Yes.
Do we have a specific way they're doing that? How do we know about it? How do we know they're doing it?
Well, how we do it, because we should participate in it since we're the ones that created it, right? So it's not being done to us, even though they assist in doing
Uh-huh.
that. So their mission is to help us clear karma and timelines so that we become more whole souled, that we become more available, become more access points to have a rich spiritual life with multidimensional parts of ourselves, right?
Right.
So your question was, how do we know? Well, how we participate is probably more accurate.
Mhm.
In one of the bigger places that I've been using for 30 some years is the Ho'oponopono. When you are aware of somebody that comes into your life that you're going, wow, like I really feel angry that person. I don't like that person. You don't even know why. There is most likely a tension there for some reason that you have no idea about.
Right.
So rather than becoming absorbed or locked into the now of it, they did this or that, or they looked at me weird or whatever that is. It's about starting that I'm sorry. And it's a broad spectrum. So it's like, I'm sorry for any other lifetime that I might have been in with you, any other dimension, in any other gender, in any other color or race, in anything that I might have done to you that was harmful to you or depleted you, whatever your words are that are more specific but broad spectrum,
Mhm.
but it still has to come from your heart. You just can't say the words.
Yeah.
But what that does is it starts to disconnect you from that person or that event that's happening that you're having reaction to. It
Right.
starts to dismantle that in some way because you're being accountable in
Right.
that moment for something that you might not even know that you've done, but you're being accountable if you did.
Yeah. And it's a love frequency, right?
Yes.
I'm sorry and thank you and forgive me. These are love frequencies if your heart is in it, right? Not just the words. If you're actually committed to those words, that frequency could clear all kinds of things, I would imagine.
It does.
I,
And what I tell people is, to get into the heart space for some people, it's difficult. So the first time out of I'm sorry, please forgive me, I love you, and thank you may just sound like that, right? May just sound like what I said. But when you do it like 3 times,
Mhm.
and you do it the first time, that's just a matter of fact. The second time, you might feel it a little bit more. I find that by the third time, you are really into the emotion of that heart space of saying that in a real loving place of, I am really sorry, even if you don't know what that sorry is about.
Right, right. That makes so much sense. I love it. It's actually quite moving. You know, the whole saying of fake it till you make it. By the third time, you may not even realize you're not faking it anymore, but
Right.
you're in the process with it. I love it.
I would
So
just want to mention something that's actually coming up right now.
yeah,
The other thing about getting to that depth and saying the Ho'opono, right? And you come to the heart space, we have to remember that we also hear that as if it's happening to us.
right.
So it can be just as moving because maybe we never hear that from anybody. Maybe
Right.
we never hear. So it's interpreted in our mental, in our mind, and in our hearts as we're hearing it for us as well.
Beautiful. I think you already said it, but just for me, why is the council deleting karma or rectifying the karma?
It's part of their mission in how they believe that in this time period, which we are in a chaotic node that is
Right.
global. So everybody in some way is involved in this. It's not you just United States, and it's not just Russia, and it's not just China, and it's not just, we're all in some way involved in this. And these timelines are coming forward. They have been, but they're increasing, right? Because we're in this place of shifting. When we start to talk about the paradigm shift, that's where we are right now.
Right.
And we're moving still through it. It's not a quick fix, right?
Right.
So these timelines, this past karma is bubbling up. It's like being in a cooking pot. These are bubbling up for us to take notice to, for us to clear, for us not to get sucked in to creating division or animosity or wars. It's for us to own what might be our part in that
Right.
so that we can clear it and we evolve. Otherwise, we just keep repeating.
Right. So the collective karma actually affects us individually.
Yes.
How would we know that? How does it affect us individually?
I find that what is held by certain cultures becomes collective. And so it becomes collective, and then it becomes genetic, and it's fed into our DNA in certain ways. That becomes, is there specifics that a certain culture carries about themselves, belief systems that they have about themselves, karma that they might have had happen to them that they carry. So it may not be their individual karma that they've created in this lifetime or others. It may be a collective one that they are bringing forward because it's now in their DNA. That's a little bit more difficult. It's a little different than how to deal with karma in the individual way.
Sure. Sure. I think I understand. I wish we had an example of a culture that had some collective. It makes me wonder about Germany, say, and an era that they lived through with Hitler as their leader, that they're, as far as I understand, they're quite astonished that that happened and regretful about it.
Right.
I've not heard that there's a huge amount of Germans going rah rah Hitler.
Right.
It's a heart pain for them. It's a deep pain. And so they carry that still. They
Yeah.
carry that history from their own ancestors and from the collective of the German culture. They carry
Mhm.
it into this present moment. And it would be great if they could be cleared of the burden of that time that they lived through or that their ancestors lived through. Is that what we're saying? Like that the.
Yes, it would be, first they have to understand that it's in a DNA traumatic form,
Mhm.
right? of how we pick it up and how we own it, because our DNA is that culture, that genetic component to it. This is in part what the council is doing in groups. At times they will take something that is a bigger collective consciousness of a trauma or something, and they will bring a different energy in, or they'll bring a different frequency, something that comes into the group setting, so that it raises the group setting. Whether those people are all that culture or not doesn't matter. It's just that raises that group setting to take a look at what that might have been had they experienced it.
Right.
Right. And then it shifts that consciousness. It just it lifts it up a bit more than it was.
Right. Right. I bet it does lift it up quite a bit more.
Mm-hmm.
What are the deepest wounds of humanity that affect us karmically?
There's 5 of them that I've found. So it's abandonment, denial, abuse, rejection, and betrayal. They are things that if you've done that to someone, they tend to stick. So they're the deepest wounds that most of us have, if not all of us. I can't speak for all of us, but we've had it done, or we've done it to someone
right
many times, right? And being accountable for that.
Right. The idea that, let's just take one of them, betrayal, say, that as we individually betray, that ends up part of the collective consciousness, and it ends up affecting all of humanity and becomes part of the humanity's karma.
Yes.
Yeah, I think I understand.
We can take a look at these, the abuse, rejection, and everything, and say, yes, I can see where I've done that to somebody, or in a past life. I know that I have, because you've investigated it or whatever. I think the deepest wound is what we do to ourselves around all of this.
Right, I agree.
And if we start just taking that and doing the Ho'oponopono with the abandonment issue, the denial issue, the rejection issue, right. Just taking a look at this particular lifetime. How did I reject myself? How did I abandon myself? When we start to clear that, it just makes a significant difference in our vibration.
Yeah, I agree. It feels like that could be quite life-changing, actually.
Yeah.
To really clear that. Yeah. How do I know if I'm creating karma?
Well, if you're aware, I think you might know. If you're unaware and it becomes part of your way that you function and the way that you think and your personality, you might not know, or maybe you don't care. But if you're on that journey to evolve to a higher way of being, a higher vibration, then it's taking a look at yourself on a daily basis. How did I treat that person? And do I feel good about it? Could I have done it differently? And even if you don't go back to that person, it's about clearing it when you think of it.
Is it like there's negative karma, positive karma, and then no karma in the middle?
There's certain no karma. I mean, everything we do is not karmic related.
Right. So what would be a positive karma? Like, just so I can wrap my mind around this. What?
You save somebody from a burning car. It's that would be at your risk. So when you save somebody is probably a bigger one. When you are in the healthcare profession in some way, and you are taking care of, and you're putting yourself not in harm's way necessarily, but this is your heartfelt experience. It's not that you just want to do it because you're getting a paycheck. You're doing it for some other reason of kindness and love and consideration and compassion. So that's around creating good karma, goes in that section. Or it's no karma you're creating. You're just a good person and you want to contribute.
Right. And then the no karma is good. For the most part, when we talk about karma, we're talking about negative karma. I think most
time, yes.
When they're referring to it, they're talking about something negative. Oh, that's, karma in a way. So being aware would lead us to avoid the negative karma then. Being more aware.
Hopefully, yes.
Right. I think awareness, we keep talking about it. It's like a key element of being on the planet and being an evolved being. is to have as much awareness of what we're doing, of what we're feeling, right? If we're not aware that we're really angry, then we're likely poking that anger at people, and
Right,
that would be creating negative karma then.
right. And it's the intention too.
Right.
What is your intention? Is it to harm that person in a way? Because people can be uh, very nice, but have a hidden agenda
Sure.
with
And vice
somebody.
versa.
And so
Right.
it's the intent. That's right. It's the intention to manipulate or get what I need to get out of them or whatever. That's another avenue.
I smiled because I was thinking of the spiders I kill, and when I'm about to kill them, I bless them and I tell them I'm sorry and I really don't want to kill them, and it's not because I'm worried about my karma. I mean, now maybe it will be, but it hasn't been up till now. It's just because I feel bad that I'm not a bigger, braver woman who can, some bugs I just can't take outside. I'm just too frightened. And
Uh,
so, I apologize heartily because I would rather let them in this kind of weather. They're still going to probably not make it if
right.
I
Yeah.
put a house spider outside. But so my intention is good. So maybe my karmic load isn't as bad as I thought it
Might
was.
not be as bad, Melissa.
Yeah, it
We'll
might
let
not
you
be.
off the hook a little
I
bit with
feel better.
spiders, okay?
I feel much better. Thank you. So, do you think karma is necessary for our evolution?
Not anymore. Um, I,
Why?
I don't, because I think that we are moving past it. We need to move past it, or at least bring it to a place of neutrality more than it is right now,
Hmm.
you know? And that's this opportunity that I think we're getting in this time
Right.
period is how do we become more neutralized? That doesn't mean that we don't take action on anything. We don't just sit around and say, we don't go into this place of, just holding the space and closing our eyes and saying, okay, everything's going to get better. We do take action on it, but you don't have the energy behind it that wants to get even with somebody, or the vindictiveness, or you don't want the wars or the hatred. You're into a place of more accepting of who you are and bringing a piece of neutrality into conversations and action.
Right. Right. Sounds wonderful.
It does. Let's
Yeah.
hope that we can create it.
Is there anything else we want to talk about karma? Is there anything else you have to say about it? We've finished all of our questions.
We did. Well, that was amazing. No, I think it would just be an encouragement for people to take a look at, even if you don't know that you have any. It's being mindful of what's coming into your life. Like for me, I've never really run into anybody, only like two or three people in my life that feel like I had a bigger issue with. That was I understood where it came from. So I did my own work and I worked with the council to understand where those issues came from.
Mhm.
And I did the Ho'oponopono with it, whatever. But I can say that it's not as big as it was,
Mhm.
but it's still there on some small level because I know it exists. So that says to me that, there's still some work to be done, or maybe there's future issues that I need to learn something about myself or about someone that resembles that karmic issue that came into my life.
Mhm.
So sometimes karma doesn't just move with a Ho'oponopono. You
Right.
might have to investigate it a little bit more for how to relieve yourself from it.
Right. Right. I think past life regressions can sometimes help
Yes.
that kind of karmic, just to bring it to consciousness, to bring to awareness what might have happened in the past, so that you can then process it, maybe verbally or in some other way. But sometimes just bringing it to awareness seems to be quite quite enough.
Yeah, it does. It does, because when you bring it to the foreground, then you have more of a place to choose
Right. Right.
and let it go.
Well, I think we did great today.
Yeah, it was good to be back into the swing of things, and
Yeah.
look forward to next time.
I want to remind everybody that you can post your comments online. You can ask us questions. Feel free. And
Yes.
try to answer them. That'll be a new fun phase.
Oh, that will be. Thank you, Melissa. Thanks, everybody, for listening, and we'll catch up with you in the next Welcome to Expansion Within, exploring multidimensionality.
Sounds good.